Hi, Bay Community. Welcome back to another Wellness Wednesday. I'm Dr. Amanda Court, and we're here to talk about parenting and mental health. It is 2024, and we are continuing with this series. I want to remind folks that if you have a topic that you want us to cover, please go to our Facebook page and post, either take the survey that's on our news feed, or just post something after we post these videos of the session, because we're always open to new ideas. So one idea that we did receive was one about basically parenting, and we're going to talk a little bit about the dynamic between parents and kids. But what we're really going to talk about tonight is the dynamic between you and your partner, whether that is um, the step parent or the partner or the father of the children or the mother of the children, right? All of these different combinations can be possible. And how we engage with our partner impacts our children, whether they are, especially if they're around every day, right? And how we interact, we're modeling behavior. So I spent a little bit of time at the beginning of this year getting to know ourselves. The reason I think this is so important is because when we get to know ourselves better, then we're able to react to situations better. We're able to um, deal with situations better. To we're just able to deal with challenges, conflict, all of the above better when we know ourselves better. So we will start without further ado getting into what we have. Now, I want to make sure that I think I have a video planned for us, so hopefully that'll work tonight. It's kind of tongue in cheek a little bit, so hopefully everyone will enjoy it. Tonight in our parenting and mental health series, we are going to talk about parenting as a couple. So as part of that, like I just said, knowing yourself better is always going to help you get to know or deal with situations better. So we will go from there. So what we're going to talk about tonight is actually a favorite topic of mine. I really enjoy this topic. It's the DISC assessment. The DISC assessment is a personality assessment. It's been used since this was discovered or developed, I should say, in 1928 by Dr. William Marston. There's actually a movie called Dr. Marston and Wonder Woman. Because the fascinating part about Dr. Marston was that he not only developed the disc and came up with a theory that behind it, but he also came up with the first polygraph test, and he is the one that created Wonder Woman. So what a fascinating personality test to start with. The movie is interesting, and it does give a fairly accurate account, at least, of the things that he created and that dynamic there. We're not going to focus on the movie tonight. We are going to focus on this personality test, because what I like about this one is that it's simple. So you have things out there like the Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, and there's 100 others. And they give so many different variations. You can have so many different combos related to those particular Enneagram. You're going to end up getting one of the letters, but it's pretty complicated, and there's lots of variations. And the disc, while not perfect, really does a good job of making it simple and remembering that we're all a sliding scale of all of these. So what we're going to do tonight is just kind of a generality. If you want to dive more into it, there are plenty of web pages about the disc. There are plenty of assessments you could take. The disc does have assessments that are, you take the disc when you're thinking about, just in your personal life, and then you take the disc associated with being under a lot of stress. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can take this assessment. I am gonna put the assessment up here for a little bit, and I will do my best to post a file on the Facebook page of the assessment so that you can download it and do it yourself later if you'd like. What I really like about the DISC assessment, again, is that simple. So dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness spells DISC. Okay, really quite simple. And this is how it breaks down. For us, like I said, it was invented by Dr. Marston. He was the first one that created this. And we're going to get into the different quadrants now. So the DISC, simply stated, is a personal development model that help people understand why they do what they do. In that regard, it brings a really nice framework. It also, and what we're going to talk about tonight, is once you figure out what you are, which letter you are predominantly, you'll also learn, you can also do this with your partner or whomever you parent with, or who's at home a lot with you. And once you figure out what letter they are predominantly, it will help you create better interactions with that person. I've used this in the workplace before as a manager or a leader trying to help my workforce understand each other. And you can really have a lot of fun with this, like I said, because it's kind of simple. So what it does is it just identifies different patterns that people tend to fall under. And when we take the assessment, it's very simple. You're basically picking between 4 words that you think describe you best. The important part is that when we do the assessment, I'll bring it up. When you do the assessment, pick quickly, don't second guess yourself. And before you even start, put yourself in the mindset of where you are most of the time. So this is parenting and mental health. So think about how you act when you're at home. The reason I say that is because some people act very differently at home with their family than they do at their workplace. Sometimes it's necessity. Sometimes it just happens naturally. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter, but make yourself certain that you are putting yourself in the mindset of the situation that you want to identify your DISC style. So each of the words does correlate to the traits of the person in each quadrant. And it will, again, help you understand how to interact with other people, because there are certain predictable patterns that everyone has. So we will go from there. Let me see if I can get the video to come up. And if I can get the video to come up, we will go from there. It's not going to let me do this. Maybe it was on the one before. Nope. Okay, give me 1 second and I'll bring up the video. This just might require me having to go and grab the video online. I apologize for this. Okay, perfect. I think I found the video. I am going to do my best to bring this up.
Okay, so we've established
And I will make sure that we can see
that everyone.
the right window. Just going to stop sharing that for a second, and then I'm going to start sharing another window. We will get this. So hopefully You will get to see the video, we'll watch it, and then we'll move on.
is different, right? But here's the cool thing. They are predictably different. We all are. And because of that, we can actually predict how people will act or react in a given situation. Our world is made up of 4 types of people. There's dominant, or the D style, influencing, which is the I style, steady, or the S style, and compliant, the C style. Generally speaking, those are the personality types of the people you interact with every day. And I'll let you in on a little secret. You're one of them. Let's take a look. We've all been waiting on an elevator and seen the girl who presses the button, steps back and looks at the button again, then presses it again, and again and again. Yeah, that's a D style. She has places to go and people to see. She's probably always in a hurry, so then she'll tap and hold the button, frustrated, thinking she can actually make it move faster. D styles are dominant, direct, and results-driven people who want to control their environment and then do something to make a difference in their world. Now, let's take a look at the I style. She is Talky Talkerton. Once the doors open to the elevator, she's the one who turns around and starts talking to nobody in particular about pretty much anything. She's an influencer. When the elevator stops, she's the jokester who quips, "Third floor, lingerie, enjoy your day." Now, not all I styles are cheesy people who tell mom jokes all the time, but you see what I mean. Eyes draw energy from people and love to engage. Now, here comes little Miss C style. She's the quiet one. She's kind of off to the side, standing in the front of the elevator, looking at the plaque that reads, "Maximum weight, 2,500 pounds." She's calculating body weight. Uh-oh, if one more person gets on, we're gonna go down. She's on a schedule, but she's allowed herself plenty of time. She's compliant, she knows the rules, obeys the rules, and wants everyone else to do the same. Look at her, how cute. Enter the S personality. She's stable, steady, and keenly aware of her surroundings. She wants everyone to be happy, and she thinks it's her job to make it so. She's the one holding the elevator door open to make sure everyone who wants to get on can do so at their leisure. Meanwhile, Miss D's in the back huffing and puffing about needing to get to her meeting. The S will even take the stairs if there's not enough room for Miss I, who keeps everyone waiting while she finishes her mocha latte frappuccino thing. Harmony and steadiness are a big deal to the S. As a leader, it's important to know these DISC styles so you can begin to better understand the people around you.
Okay, so that was kind of a nice little way to introduce the disc. I'm going to share back the slideshow and we will do this ourselves. Okay, so now we move on. I want you to get out a piece of paper and pencil if you can. Once you have that out, and get started. Okay, so you don't need to write all this down. What I want you to do is just write 1 through, I think I have 18 total, 1 through 18, and you're just going to answer A, B, C, or D. So when you look at these first 4 words, which one is the closest to describing you? And remember, put yourself in the mindset of wherever you are. So we're talking about parenting and mental health. So put yourself in the mindset of being at home with your family, okay? Or in the situation where you are parenting, or in the situation where you're with your partner parenting. That's the situation we want to focus on. We don't want to focus on the situation of you at work. That might give you a slightly different response. So first one, restrained, forceful, careful, or expressive. Which of these 4 most closely describes you in your home life? And you got to pick one. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Do that for 1 through 12. And then, unless someone says otherwise, if they're not done, we'll move on. And there's a few more on the other page, and then we'll score our answers. Okay, we're gonna go to the second window, do the next one. See that? They can't. So this should be 13, 14, 15, 16. I think it might go to 20. So just keep going. Okay, now that you've gotten all the answers, we're gonna go to the next page, which gives us the score. So you should have written down A, B, C, or D for each one. Now we're gonna go to the next page and you're gonna get this. So you're gonna write a DISC next to your answers. And when you go to 1, you'll notice that if you answered a B, that's a D style. And you're gonna tally up how many answers fall into each category. So for instance, for number 1, I answered B. So I would put a tally mark under the D. For number 2, I answered D. So that's an S. So I would put a tally mark next to the S. Make sense? Good. Okay, you should have had time to score. And you will notice that you probably didn't have all your tally marks in one spot. That's normal, right? We're not all one letter. Now, if you had it almost evenly distributed throughout all of them, you might want to go back through and really, again, put yourself into a parenting moment. I know not all the words are perfect for parenting moments, but put yourself in a parenting moment where some of those words would definitely come up and rethink your answers. Or what we're also going to do, I'm going to show you some characters and some people that represent these different styles and what their predominant style is. And that will help you as well. So as part of that, we're going to talk about what each of them means. So for any of you that have seen the sitcom Friends, okay, there are characters that fall into each of these categories very clearly, actually. And so I used this as a way to describe it because I think it helps when you have something to reference. So for the D style, the dominant style, this is a style that's can be both bold and skeptical. Excuse me. They typically dive into challenges. They might be one of the first people to volunteer for something. So they're always excited about participating. They definitely have a high priority of winning or doing something, they want to win something. So a lot of the D styles are very competitive. They are receptive to logic and data, especially if it feels like it's going to help them win or do something better or get an A or whatever the case may be. They do pursue challenges and they can be assertive in, in conversations. They will definitely tell you what their opinion is. Because of this, they can also become easily irritated when someone has an opposing point of view that doesn't quite align with what they have. So from the Friends characters, Monica is definitely a D. She's, very determined. She's assertive. She gets very competitive. And you can see this in her, her personality. Okay. So let's go to the I. The I is influence. So the I's are also bold, right? So if you notice at the top of this circle, you have the letters that go all the way around. So the D's and I's are filled with action, okay? And so the opposite of action is this stability or this kind of staying put, being very dependable, right? Doesn't mean that action people aren't dependable. It's just the difference between really like movement, right? People that really jump to action or people that might hesitate. That's the difference on this y-axis, and on the x-axis, you have the difference between results and being challenged, or the people side of it, which is more collaboration, right? And so that kind of explains to you how the sliding scale can go, right? So when we look at someone like Chandler from Friends, he is high energy, right? So he still has a lot of action. He's also sarcastic, very personable. Everybody likes him, and he can be highly persuasive, right? So the I personality tends to welcome others. They're the person that's always throwing the party. They're the one that will generate a lot of excitement about something. They're the people that can really inspire people, right? They're also the person that probably knows everyone. We call these people the mayor, right? They know everyone. They know what's going on with everyone. They tend to be outgoing, enthusiastic. They'll walk up and talk to you instead of sending you a text. They like face-to-face. They like being happy, right? They also, a lot of times they're more concerned because of this. They're also a lot of times more concerned with how they look, what they wear, not necessarily from a superficial standpoint, but because they care about what other people think. The downside of this might be they get really excited about things and they get going. They might not always completely follow through, or they might take the easier way, and what the easier way would be for them is to be involved with people and talking and right. Think about that person that floats around a room during a party. They do lots of talking, but they're not the ones that stay there and help you clean up, right? So, or they're not maybe the ones that help you set up either, right? So at a party, maybe in your house, the I would be maybe your teenage child that seems to be friends with everybody, right? Or maybe not just a teenage child. Your child seems to be friends with everybody, right? Or maybe you have a partner that's like that, that always wants to go out, always has friends over, cares about what they look like, cares about what other people think. And this is not meant to be critical or bad. Eyes are wonderful. They're the people that know everyone and know what's going on with everyone. So they're definitely people you want to have in your life. In fact, you want to have all these people in your life. We just have to know how to interact with them so that we can speak their language and also help them feel cared about. Okay, steadiness. So steadiness is both, okay, action slows down, right? But they really care about people. So they are cautious and accepting. They are highly motivated to help others and maintain kind of harmony, stability. So just like the video showed, they're the person that will make sure everyone else gets on the elevator before they get on there, right? They're going to pay attention to what everyone else wants, oftentimes at the sacrifice of what maybe they want. But with really strong S's, they've gotten so into helping others that sometimes they forget what they want. They often seem pretty calm and patient. You might have, there might be a parent, one of the parents in your household. I see these S's in my office a lot. Once they've figured out that they've given so much that now they're exhausted. And even though giving makes them feel good, if they never get a chance to do the things they want, or they don't feel appreciated, which is even a bigger deal for them, they do all this stuff and they don't feel like it's appreciated. They don't feel like someone cares about their thoughtfulness, that really takes away from them. So they have a tendency to struggle with change. So if you change things quickly, they will hesitate. They like things to be the same. They like patterns and routines. They don't like to be something coming out of left field for them, where an I might love, something changes, they're like, woohoo, let's go for it. They are the people that you went around that kind of keeps everything steady and going, maybe takes a moment to think it through. I've also done this before with the characters in Winnie the Pooh. Steadiness is Pooh Bear. D is Rabbit. I is Tigger. Okay. Okay. So Rachel in this case is the closest to an S, very considerate of others, always worried about what others think, puts others before herself. Okay. So conscientiousness. This is the scientist of the group, or your mathematician, or your statistics accountant type person, or your editor, right? They're detail oriented. Your engineer is another great example of this. They're the person that they also slow to act, right? They've got to get all the facts first. But they also like to challenge themselves. So they like the idea of a big problem. If someone is struggling with something, they might jump to help, but it's less about helping the person and more about solving the problem. Okay. They love to share their expertise. Okay. They love feeling qualified. They are driven by logic, and they are driven by having very straightforward goals and very concise things. C's may struggle if they overanalyze something, right? You're trying to make a decision about, I don't know, where to go for dinner even. They'd be the person that break out a pros and cons list. And they would list everything. Meanwhile, D's like, oh my gosh, we should have left 30 minutes ago. The I's like, let's just go, like they want to go too, and they're trying to find a place that's fun. And he's like, I just wanted to go, and I've had all this other stuff to do, and why haven't we gone? And the S is like, oh, you choose. I don't care where we go. It all sounds good to me, right? So that's the difference between each one of them. So how does this pan out in people that are not characters, but in the real world? In the real world, these are some people that would be characterized as a D, I, S, or C. So you can see in the D, Donald Trump, very strong D, right? It's my way or the highway. People disagree with him. He doesn't take well to that. Judge Judy's another one, right? She's very much a D. Oprah Winfrey's one people wouldn't think of as being a D. However, think about it. She's extremely driven in terms of her life. Even though she's very charismatic and easy to sit down with and talk to, she really had to push for a lot of things in her life. And so she was very driven, very action oriented, got things done. So you can have that charisma and be someone people like to be around, and also be a D. It's not always super grumpy and bossy, right? It's not always that. It just, if it gets too much, if they go too far in the D spectrum, that's where it goes. Eyes, right? Those are our influencers. Those are our people that everyone seems to like, or at least the eyes think everyone likes them. So you can kind of see the sliding scale here where you have a Richard Branson who's very charismatic, very likable. Jim Carrey can be charismatic, but gets to borderline annoying, and he really personifies that in some of his movies. Dolly Parton, right? Someone everyone likes, but it's big, kind of a big figure. Someone that can be seen to be larger than life. Robin Williams is another one, and Ellen DeGeneres, right? Get to the S's. Nelson Mandela is, in my opinion, the epitome of an S. Someone that is both, and I have a feeling that he has some D in him too. Driven, action oriented, but very cautious and steady about the way he makes his choices, and wants to make sure that he's making his choices for the betterment of the group. Okay. And so I love Nelson Mandela as that. C's, Bill Gates, yeah, absolutely. Warren Buffett, two people that have used data and logic to make, billions of dollars, right? And that's what led them. Maybe a little awkward to talk to, not the person that's going to liven up your dinner party. And maybe it takes a while for them to get things done. But when they do it, they usually do it well. You always want to see to review your paper or to look over your taxes before you turn it in, because they will catch the errors. In my personal life, I usually share about something personally. My husband is very much a C. Okay, and he has a little bit of S in him too, which is an interesting combination, and I'm much more of a D and an I. So as you can imagine, that can create a little bit of tension in our home life. But because we know that about each other, we're able to work together. And that's what the purpose of tonight's all about. I want to share these with you because I want to help you understand how to make this work for who you're around. And you can also see this in your kids, right? So if you're dealing with a D and you're talking about this person as a partner, the what's in it for me kind of sounds greedy. Ds aren't necessarily greedy or selfish people. They might come off that way, but when they do something, it's very action oriented. And what's in it for me? It might be what's in it for the group. What's in it for my family? What's in it for the school? That's all D, right? They want to know what the return on investment is. They also want to know it fast, and they want immediate action. Okay. So with D's in, when you're dealing with parenting, what you want to, D's are great because they'll get things done. So they're the person that on the weekend makes a chore list, and they're the person that generally has their calendar all spelled out, and they have everything, things they're going to do every day. D's, what D's don't like, sitting around and doing nothing. That is death to a D. Okay. So if I will again use myself as an example, my husband's a strong SC or CS. I'm a strong D, right? My husband likes days where we don't do anything and he can just sit and think about things, maybe read a book, maybe do a crossword. He still wants to do things that challenge him, right? That's the C in him. But he's not driven to get it done on any sort of time frame. I am 100% time driven. And actually I see it in my son too. So for D's, when you're dealing with that in a child, this is the kid that you need to slow down and say, hey, I know you want to get the quiz done fast, or I know you want to get your homework done fast, but remember, you want to do it right. I had to learn that lesson, realizing that fast wasn't always the best way. I also had to realize that other people sometimes had better ways to do things than I did. Just because I was the first to speak didn't mean that I was right. Oh, that was mind blowing. So that's D's, right? They will be one of the first to speak in a group. If you have a partner that's a D and you're not a D, Then you have to figure out, D's do really well with S's. Unfortunately, you want to make sure that there's a balance there, right? D's can completely walk all over S's if they aren't aware of that. So the way my husband and I balance things is he has one day on the weekend where I don't plan anything. It is free and open. I have to tell you, most of the time I go to my office and do work on that day because it drives me nuts. So I don't want to be grumpy around him while he has his free time. The other day on the weekend, though, is chore day, and I have a list of chores. The kids have to get it done. And as soon as they get everything done, I have to let it go and let the rest of the day just be. Okay. For him, I have to, when I want to make a decision, I have to be conscious of letting him, and I'll talk about this in a few minutes, but let him ask me a lot of questions, not get annoyed this is taking forever to figure out, right? So that's a D, and that's some ways that you can help Ds when if you know they're in a relationship. Two Ds can get along really well, or they can butt heads. It really depends on a lot of other factors, but if you have two Ds in a relationship, you're never gonna have a problem figuring out where you want to go to dinner because everyone's gonna have an opinion. If you're not a D, if you're not a strong D, you might have to start creating boundaries sometimes that allow you to alternate who picks dinner. Or if you really just never care, and once in a while you do, then as an S, you have to speak up once in a while, right? And so you'll find a way to balance that out. You might have to repeat things like, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this decision, or I really need to think about this more. When you're dealing with a D, you have to set really clear boundaries because they will handle your boundaries, but you have to give them the boundaries to handle. Okay. Okay, let's go to I's. I's, do you like me? And I mean, really, they already know that answer, right? Everyone likes them, or so they think. I's like excitement, they're lighthearted, they're fun. I'll also say my husband has a lot of I in him, probably more so than the S. Or I's want to be socially accepted, and often are until they become too much. So if you have that friend if you had that friend growing up that always called you, always texting you, always reaching out, always wanting to do stuff, they're great for a while. And then you're like, oh my gosh, sometimes, the S or the C might be like, oh, I need a break. This is the person that also might be, they're the life of the party, right? So if you're married to an I and you go to a party, they're going to be the one that talks to everyone. Maybe they seem a little flirty, or everyone's kind of attracted to being around them, and that can feel really off-putting for some people. Just remember that is something that makes them feel good about themselves. And if you're not the I, and you're part of that relationship, you might have to set the boundaries. If your kid is an I, you have to set really clear boundaries of like, hey, I know you love hanging out with your friends, but you have to get your homework done first, or you have to get your chores done first, right? Or we can't have your friends spend the night every night, because that gives them energy, that makes them feel good. Where I's feel really bad is if they feel like someone laughed at them or made fun of them. They really don't deal with criticism well. So you have to be really careful with how you let them know that you don't like something, or maybe you think what they're doing isn't the best way. If that's the case, you usually have to put it in the perspective of, hey, and I'm thinking about kind of like social norms with kids, like, hey, you maybe want to wear deodorant, because if you don't, or if you don't brush your teeth, like other kids are going to notice that, and they might not want to be as close to you or talk to you as much or be around you. So those are the types of things you deal with an I. I really like how they dress. So if you have a child that way, they're going to care about what they wear. So you just throwing something at them and telling them just put it on is really going to be hurtful for them, way more than it would be for a D who just wants to get out the door, or an S, right? So, okay. Speaking of S, let's talk about them. So this is the person that wants to make everybody happy. They're very sincere, usually very kind people. They like to talk to people one-on-one. They are the person that's always everyone's best friend, because they're just so good at being a friend, right? They're thoughtful. That said, they may be slower to come to a decision about something, because they're, especially if they have a lot of different people and different personalities, they might become very overwhelmed about having to make a decision. So if you have a child that's an S, sometimes I see this a lot in children of divorce. They're trying to please both parents and they become overwhelmed because they don't know how to please everybody. And they became an S because that they got the what I call the good girl syndrome out of it. You know, they were kind, they were pleasant, so they always got attention for that. And when parents are going through divorce, they don't get attention anymore, and then they're trying to find ways to please them and they can't figure it out. That can make them feel really overwhelmed. S's generally don't like surprises, especially if the surprise is like a practical joke. That will feel really insincere and hurtful to them. They will give you the shirt off their back, but that also means they take a lot of things really personally. Okay. So if a D just says something quickly, if you're a D and you're talking to your partner and they're an S, and you say something really quickly and it's not the nicest, that will really hurt the S because they really think through the things they say. They really are thoughtful about what comes out of their mouth way more than a D or an I. So while S's are the people that will be your most reliable, most thoughtful, most caring, they also are the ones that will get the most hurt by things that aren't thoughtful or caring. So that's something that you can do to help with an S. The other thing about an S, if you're in a relationship with one, especially if you're a D or an I, you're going to want them to make a decision and it's going to frustrate you that it takes forever. So sometimes letting them know that no matter what decision they make, you're still going to love them, you're still going to support them, that helps them to make a decision. So things like that, helping them support and helping them verbalize how they feel and being non-judgmental about that will help the S be more confident in what they want. The C. This is your classic, you know, black and white, rules oriented, logical person. And again, not everyone is fully in this one category. This person probably had a checklist for the person they dated. Yep, they have to have this, they have to have this, they have to have this. They are very cautious to go into things. They might have been the person when you first got with your partner, if they were a C, they did not open up to you right away. And in fact, maybe they seemed very stepwise and you loved that they were, you know, you knew what to expect from them. And however, they proceeded really cautiously and you're like, geez, I don't know whether this person likes me or not. If your person is a C, okay, they don't like surprises, they don't like spontaneity, generally speaking. So, and they definitely want to be exclusive in a relationship, right? They're not the one that's going to be, because they took a really long time to decide who they wanted to be with. So they are going to be pretty exclusive. So for them, often social situations, they like it to be smaller groups. Small groups are fine, one-on-one's great. They want it to be small, controllable, right? They also like a challenge. So they like people that will challenge them intellectually or challenge them even athletically, right? You can have C's that are really strong athletes. They're the ones that might be like the quarterback of the team, right? They're analyzing all the different things that are going on the field all at once to make the right decision. Even if there was one plan, they're able to readjust if things change. They're going to really want to be with someone that challenges them in some way, but also gives them information. The worst thing you can do with a C is say, hey, I bought us tickets to go to Jamaica and we're leaving tomorrow. And they're like, wait, what? And then they're going to have 1,000 questions. And if you're an I or a D, that's going to feel really unnerving. But like, what do you mean? Why do I need to answer all these questions? We're going, right? And the C's are like, no, no, no. How much does it cost? And what airline are we flying on? And what do I need to pack? And what are we going to be doing? What's the itinerary? They're going to have all these questions. And it's not because they don't like the idea. I mean, they might be caught a little off guard, but it's because they need to have a lot of facts. Now, in that space, if you're with a C person, the boundary that you need to set is, hey, we need to decide by this time. So it's going to have to, that good enough decision is something that C's have to get to often. Otherwise, they will be stuck in analyzing the data forever. They might also be extremely critical of themselves. C's are people that often can become self-critical. They overanalyze themselves all the time. I have a son that's a C. My husband's a C too. He's a little more adjusted. My son that's a C, we're working on it. So he gets really upset if there's someone else in the classroom that breaks the rules because he doesn't understand. Wait a minute, the rule is this. Why didn't you follow it? Right? He sees things a little more black and white. So getting him to understand, and a phrase that I use with C's and with D's. Okay, so this is if you have a D or a C child, it's better to have friends than to win. And I use this, it's not always the case, right? Most of the time, though, it is. In terms of quality of life, Harvard says that having a close friend network gives you a better and longer quality of life than anything else. More so than exercise, more so than success or money, anything else. A close, connected friend group. So with that in mind, I often tell my kids, hey, it's more important to have friends than to win. So if you're playing a cutthroat game of Monopoly, maybe take a breath, realize it's okay to lose if you're having fun with your friends and if you're connecting. Might be something you have to check in with your spouse too. If you have a really strong C or D spouse, because remember, D is really competitive too, and they're playing with their kids, you might have to get them to take a step back and go, wait a minute, it's okay. Like we can let our kids score a couple times. We have to let them learn how to have fun with this. With the C, there might be the ones that might feel like they're hovering over their children to make sure they do everything just right. And the kid feels overwhelmed. So these are just some different ways to look at the different types of personalities in the DISC assessment. Like I said, go explore on your own. I hope this felt helpful. The fun part about these categories, you can definitely kind of create these stereotypical D, I, S, and C. However, it's simple enough. It's only 4 letters, right? So generally speaking, I can land someone in a general letter category, and then I know how to deal with them. If I'm dealing with the D, I know I need to make a decision quickly. Or if they speak first, I'll take it with a grain of salt that they probably didn't think this through as much as my C, right? My C's are the people that I go to double check my work, right? My D's are the ones that I go to when I just need to get something done. My I's are the ones that I go to find out who, all the information about different people. Like if I'm trying to form a team, I have a daughter that's a high I. She knew every kid to pick, why and what skill they had, and they also happen to all be her friends, right? She was great. She had a whole list of people, right? They're the ones that have like thousands of people that follow them and are friends with them on social media. Your S's are your stable, secure ones. They're always the ones that have thoughtful gifts. They're the ones you go to. Honestly, they're the ones you go to when you're feeling like you have a problem, right? You just want to chat with them. Just make sure not to overuse the S. The S you don't want to overuse and go to too much because they'll get exhausted. And they're the ones you want to make sure that you tell them when you notice something that they've done well, or when they've made you feel good, make sure you let them know that. That will make them feel amazing. Hope this was helpful. This was kind of a fun way to helping you get to know yourself better. Like I said, there's tons of stuff on DISC, a lot of fun. And I hope you get to play around with it a little bit and that this was helpful. If you have any questions about it, please post on Facebook. I'll post this video on Facebook so everyone can watch it soon. Otherwise, have a great night and a great rest of your week and be well.